Hi, my name is Nancy Love, and ordinarily I make videos for the Planet Peace Project, which is a fledgling organization that I longed to start before a criminal cabal put me in a wheelchair, and I haven't been able to stand or walk for a number of years, and I've been battling them. Sometimes it feels like almost single-handedly, but surely there are good cops and good FBI agents and good Homeland Security types of folks, and I'm not really as alone as I seem now, am I? I want to talk about why you shouldn't breed and why I call this captivity. There are a lot of reasons why a responsible person should not breed. One is that 25,000 people starve to death approximately every 24 hours. Often more than half of them children who never had more to eat, enough to eat in their entire lives for one day, but their entire lives are cut short because they don't even have enough food. While prosperous nations throw away billions of pounds of food every single day. So instead of, having more babies, why don't you adopt one that's going to starve to death if you don't? Then there is the population J curve. I saw it when I was a kid, how the human population had taken millennia to get to 4 billion, but that it was expected to soar to approximately 8 billion in only 60 to 70 years. So it has. Duh, people. What ecosystem, what healthy context can't even support the people it has at 4 billion, but so called higher forms of life, ha ha ha, get on this idea that the planet can support more than twice that number. Hello, stop it. Immanuel Kant said that behave in such a fashion that if everyone followed your example, it would be a beautiful world. Well, if everybody followed my example and that of at least 20% of baby boomers born into the United States after World War II, you wouldn't have kids. I have offered a really good example. I didn't breed. Now, why do I call it breeding in captivity? It's because the M check is coming back. It's because of something called the game, something called in, something called the mafia, something called the military, and I mean all the mafias and all the militaries and all the governments of the world. Yes, this is a controversial thing to say out loud, but I'm called the voice, and as Malala Yousafzai said, when the whole world is silent, even one voice becomes powerful. I had a total stranger come up to me in Los Angeles a while back, and he was a huge black man. I'd never seen him before, and at first he seemed to be copping an attitude. He seemed to be angry at me or jealous of me, and I said, "What's wrong with you? I don't know you. Why are you that way?" He seemed aggravated, and he started crying. He started bawling like a little baby, and he said that he was so grateful to me. He said, "You're the voice, aren't you? You're the one who speaks for us all. They left you out on purpose. You're called a great lady. You're called an innocent, right?" I said, "Yes." And he said that he hoped I never knew what I was innocent of, and that I was truly great, and that I was speaking for millions and millions of people who are being enslaved in a silent prison. They look like they're living their lives. Some of them seem to be living prosperous lives. Maybe some of them are Hollywood movie stars or mayors or other types of politicians. But he said that I was helping free the slaves. I'm also known as the woman who changed the game because I made a speech in 2000 and for about 6 months, whatever or whoever is doing this to everybody just stopped. And people go, "Are you the woman who changed the game?" I go, "Yeah." "How?" I spoke loud, I spoke angrily, and I spoke vociferously, and I spoke in a very articulate fashion, in a reasonable fashion. Freedom, because protection game questions are unholy, unnatural, immoral, and they've got to stop. So, let's talk about the screaming man, the Navy guy, his mom, and me on a street corner on a lovely city in California. A few months ago, I was waiting in my wheelchair to cross, and a lovely young man and his, a woman who's a bit older than he was, possibly his mom, um, were standing there. He was in a Navy uniform, right? He was probably about 21, 22. And then as we all stood, as they stood and I sat waiting for the light to change, the person I call the screaming man walked by screaming at the top of his lungs about politics and pain and victimization and anger and so forth. The, the screaming man is a homeless man, young, very articulate at times, a handsome young man, often dirty, often disheveled. He sleeps in the road, and as long as I've been here, he will sometimes just start walking up and down the street screaming at the top of his lungs about everything that's wrong on the planet. He ought to get a YouTube channel. That would help get his voice out. And at times when he's coherent and articulate and calm, I've talked to him. I've given him food and money and things like that, and he will say, tell me why he's angry. A lot of the same reasons you are. It's just that you probably don't go running around screaming. And he's just like anybody. He's like your accountant or your attorney or your college professor. He's a very fine young man, but sometimes, I've told him, you scream for us all. He's, in a way, a voice. And I said, when I hear you scream, he said, I guess you think I'm crazy. I said, well, I'm a psychologist, but I've also been on this planet about twice or three times as long as you have, so I understand your pain. Scream for us all, screaming man. And so when he thanked me, so when he walked past us, the three strangers, and they kind of looked, they rolled their eyes and shook his head, and I just told them pretty much what I told you, and then the light changed, and none of us walked because the lady and the young man and I were still talking. So we stood there, or they stood there, and I sat there for a minute, sat there in this, and I explained to them that the screaming man wasn't nearly as crazy as he seemed, and that in fact, by talking about very loudly and in public about victimization and righteousness and what should be and what isn't in society, he screams for us all. And as the screaming man walked more than half a block away, I said, "Scream for us all, screaming man, scream for us all." And I put my fist in the air and turned it into a peace sign. Because I've said all my life, when you stand with a fist, remember to turn it into a peace sign. Well, the Navy guy started crying. I didn't know what to make of that. His mother asked him what was wrong, and it was his mom, and he started referring to her that way. And he started talking about how he had been sexually assaulted in the military. He said that practically everybody in his boot camp ops had been sexually assaulted by one or more commanding officers, and he said that was their way of subduing them and subjugating them and making sure that they understood that once they signed on the dotted line and they agreed to be in the United States military, that they were slaves of a government that wanted to utilize them as cannon fodder. He said he had heard a lot about some young people being killed for complaining about conditions in what seemed to be an innocent and righteous fashion. They didn't make it out of the first year or two in military alive. And that made me remember that back in the Vietnam War, listen to me, approximately 20% of the people from America that got shipped home in body bags, men and women, were we were told were killed by friendly fire. And I said, there's a whole heck of a lot of mistakes being made over there if 1 out of 5 uh, military people gets shipped home dead because somebody accidentally shot them. What's wrong with that picture? What's wrong with their commanding officers? Well, I knew some Navy SEALs in Austin who told me that, in point of fact, a lot of those people were killed on purpose. It was not an accident, that they were killed on purpose by their commanding officers, complaining when they didn't want to have to. Hello, police. When they didn't want to have to do their worst. What's like in the movie Platoon, sexually assault a little kid in a village or bomb a village full of old women, men, and children. Unarmed civilians. When United States military people during the Vietnam War decided they didn't want to do their worst that their government told them to. Some of them got shipped home dead. So here I'm sitting on the street corner proselytizing for the cause of this screaming man and telling people he's not that crazy after all. And lo and behold, this young man just starts bawling and telling his mother that he had been sexually assaulted as a means of subjugation by the United States military. And I thought he said, I told you I was happy and everything was fine because I didn't want you to worry. I didn't know I didn't want you to know what I was up against and how insidious and how horrifying this program is. And this is not the first time I've heard of this, people. I've heard women talk about it who were in the military. I've heard all kinds of things for all kinds of years. So what the screaming man, the Navy guy, his mother and me standing or sitting on a street corner have to do with anything, have to do with you, is you need to get sterilized. Stop breeding. Stop now. Teach your children well. They're on a planet in which even well-meaning people who decide they want to serve their country with valor and courage can be sexually assaulted and called victims and slaves by that same country. Uh, we are living on a planet in which the population is doubled in hardly more than half a century. How smart is that, really? Come on. And then a bunch of people are starving to death, and a lot of them are kids who never had a chance to make their way in the world, to plant crops, to find water, to go to the city, get a job, and earn food. They're dying in their mother's arms before they get a chance to even try to help save the world. So there's that, and then there's in. There's being brought in. A lot of people um, get something called brought in, and I'm not going to run over my glasses. And when people get brought in, they are forced to answer protection questions like, would you give your life to save your brothers? Or would you, if you could only choose to have one live, would your mom or your dad live? And then it gets worse from there. I know people who have talked about these horrifying choices, and I know a lot of people who say that not wanting to be brought in causes a heck of a lot of suicides because people would rather die than be brought in. And I understand that completely. I'm told that the term Great Lady has to do with somebody who's protected from protection questions because somebody or lots of somebodies know certain types of people, and they're great men as well, certain types of people won't do their worst. They will not be brought in. They will not lose their innocence. They will not kill in order to live. They won't choose between their mother and their father's life. They won't choose between their sisters or brothers' lives. They won't do it. And if you won't do it, then you end up dead. The mafia kills you if you don't want to get brought in. It's called rejecting recruitment. Talk about a boot camp, huh? So I am really vociferous. And I have talked to people with pregnancies and young kids, and I say, please stop breeding in captivity. And because I know a lot of Italians. A lot of those people start crying and they say, I know, I shouldn't have. Think on this, my friends. I must have massive, massive courage to get on the internet and tell you these things. But these things are terribly, terribly, horrifyingly true. And it's about time. It is long past time somebody on this planet had the courage to tell the truth. Reject mafia recruitment. There's nothing glamorous about it. There is absolutely nothing glamorous about the mob. The worst thing that ever happened to Hollywood is when those mafia movies started being made and everybody thought it was cool and cute and they had nice music and they had nice clothes and they had really good actors who made quite a lot of money, popularizing the idea that being in the mafia was a good thing. It's a form of hell and it can kill you. All the mafias are connected. The Italians, the Russians, all of them are connected. And some of them are running the military. There, I've said it. Just call me significantly more courageous than practically anyone around. Once I lost my cats, I lost my reason to live. And now I have only one reason: justice. Justice for the cats of love. Justice, I say, and now.